Fantastic, thank you. Excellent. So clearly the pandemic and the closures of our arts organizations and schools have created this enormous vacuum, not only in our daily lives, but also it's an upheaval to work and school careers for our students. For the students, there's also this added burden that they're under this incredible pressure of time to get moving. So they're sitting in their parents' basements or in the rooms that they grew up in, or they're in a little bit of chaos, and they're feeling the stress of, oh my goodness, I only have 2 years, 3 years, 1 year left of college, and I'm not able to move forward because of this pandemic. So when they're really frustrated, they're kind of stressed out, they're really ready to do something substantial. So oddly, this opportunity to do a remote internship is a wonderful opportunity for them. And depending upon one's circumstances, since students actually often didn't have cars, if your internship location is far away from where the school is, or even if it's like from here to those of you who are local to East Hampton, that's a 45-minute bus ride one way, and back is longer. So they also often couldn't get to an internship, even if it was just a couple miles down the road, so it was too far. So the opportunity now is that they can do an internship anywhere. So we have folks who are joining us today who are in Kentucky, who are in Maryland, who are elsewhere. And on top of that, you're in Boston or you're local. And these are wonderful opportunities for the students, because now it doesn't matter where you are. What matters is your internship listing viable? Is it compliant? And is it going to be interesting to the students? And is it also going to be substantial enough for you to want to post it and go through the work of having an intern? Next, please. So the internships are actually really critical for students' learning, and also for that opportunity for them to, basically, like I said, get out of their parents' basements and also have an opportunity to connect with other people and grow their networks. Networks and growth are really critical for students right now, as is support. And obviously these are some of our supporters. So if you could go to the next one, please. Great. So what's a remote internship? Some people call them remote. I tend to do the fallback of calling them virtual internships, but regardless of what people call it, this is basically an internship that happens at a distance. As many of us have had to adapt to working from home, so have internships. And our students are actually telling us that they're ready. They want to do something, they're excited to do it. Many of our students, however, have really varying degrees of internet access. This is an issue that we're dealing with on the campus right now. So your contact with your students might be a mixture of phone calls, Zoom or Skype, or email. I personally have really bad internet at my house and in my office right now, but that means I can do some of these things, but I often have to default to the telephone. So be prepared when you're working with your student. Find out first if they have what kind of internet access they have and how reliable it might be. So again, one of the things that we're also going to really pound and try to stress today throughout the day is just, any internship or regular job. The concept of communication is absolutely critical, and it's really key, and we're going to talk about this several times over and over again, that it's really important that you communicate regularly and really clearly with the students. And also we're going to just give you today some really interesting tips to help make your internship experience really successful. So if you could go to the next, please. So we're going to talk to you about what an internship actually requires, what we need from you, and how we can actually help you as you make your journey through. Next, please. One of the things that the Arts Extension Service, and we call ourselves AES as sort of some shorthand, one of the things that we kind of look at ourselves right now is, there's someone waiting to get in, is we're kind of the bridge between the student and you. So you can come to us for help, and we may go to you for some help if the student's having some problems or some issues. We won't just help you find an internship or post your issue and walk away. We are here for you if you need it. And then we say the same thing to the students. If you need help, either from us or from Caroline from Career Services, they can go they can come to either one of us. As many of you who run arts organizations know, numbers are really necessary for reporting, and reporting equals funding. So we really are going to ask you to, once you get an internship connection that works, let us know that you brought on an intern. If there's a problem, we'd like to know, but we also want to know if there's something exceptional that's happening within your connection with your student. So let us know that you have a student. That's absolutely number one. We're going to ask for a memorandum of understanding, just a really basic form that has these various points in it. One of the points that is included in this MOU is a site visit if requested. If there's a problem, it might help if we duck in and see how you guys are interacting. It might give us an opportunity to help the student to do a better job if necessary. Caroline's going to really talk about the internship guidelines and what you can do to stay federally compliant, not to scare you too much, but there's some information there that we can help you with. We'll have an evaluation at the end of your internship. We want to know how to improve this program and process. Again, if you have to meet your student, might be through video or phone, etc. And again, we're going to really recommend that you set up a schedule with your student, meet with them twice a week at a set time and location, either on the phone or on Zoom or whatever that might be, for reasons that we'll really go into it at some length in a few moments. The other thing is that, obviously we're in this pandemic. We have no idea when this is going to be over with. There's a lot going on right now. We don't know yet, obviously, if we'll be back on campus in the spring, or if this is just the first of several remote internship opportunities or moments that we're going to be having. So since this is the first fully remote opportunity, your feedback and your experiences are going to be critical to helping us make this a better experience. So let me just see if there's anything else I want to say. Oh, go ahead.
So I just want to let everybody know that we will be sending these remote internship guidelines to you. So you don't have to write everything down. We will send them along with the presentation. So you'll have that in your inbox soon. Today, we're going to walk through, how you can hire and connect with an intern. And Arts Extension Service, what we offer is we're really a conduit and a connector between you and the potential intern. And because we are part of the College of Humanities and Fine Arts at UMass, students are really interested in the work you're doing. They want experience in the field, and they want to gain that understanding and knowledge. So it's a good connection that we're making here with you. And essentially, once you have an idea, where you want to start is once you have an idea of what your internship should be, and we're going to help you out with that, you can create and submit a listing to AES, and we provide opportunities such as something that's coming up soon, the Internship Fair, and promotion of your internship directly to students through a variety of channels such as career advising. Caroline helps us out with that, as well as other departments that are on campus, as well as things like digital marketing through social media and emails directly to students to let them know these are all of the internships that are being offered this semester. And they really look to that list as a go-to source because it's easy, it's on the website, they know it's targeted at arts and humanities oriented organizations or artists. So it's a go-to for them. We're going to go through the particulars of all this, but essentially, once you submit your internship, we review it to make sure it follows the AES guidelines and the requirements. And then the student will connect with you through email based on your listing and through the Internship Fair as another opportunity to connect with them. You have an interview, you select an intern who's a best fit for your opportunity. So we've done things a little bit differently this year, especially since everything's gone remote, right? So something that we found is that you can create your internship posting through us. And we've been doing that for quite a while. I think it's been many years since AES has offered this service, 5 years. So, this is an opportunity for you to create your listing. Where you want to start is by deciding what type of internship opportunity you have. And what we found was that that internship providers offered a couple of different focuses mostly. And these focuses were the arts marketing communication internship, a fundraising development focus, a programming, and a research focus. So what you can do is go to umass.edu/AES internships, locate the provider sign up. We have an easy form on our site in which you can choose one of these templates. You can add to the template so that if you have specific requirements for your internship, you can add that to it and your internship posting will be made essentially. If it falls outside of those guidelines, that's okay. you can have your unique listing and you would just add it to the same form. And it's really easy to do. When you complete the form, you choose one of the templates. We also find that interns who have a specific focus, it's really good for project-based work. You know, as a person who has worked within an arts organization over many years, we're often wearing many hats, right? We're doing the development, we're doing the marketing, we're doing the programming. This is an opportunity to really give an intern a focus on a specific project or 5 projects within their timeline. And then it's in that area, and then they can have that takeaway, and it makes for a more organized internship in the end. Say if you have 2, often there'll be crossover. If you have 2 interns, one who's doing marketing and one who's doing development, it might be a great opportunity for them to work together on a project where that crossover happens. Say if you have an email newsletter that's going out that's development focused, that's a fundraising newsletter, then you can work with the marketing intern and the development intern can work together. As I said, if it falls outside of the scope of the internship of one of these templates, you can just add your own template or your own internship listing. And what we'll do is we'll just go through it, make sure it follows our guidelines, and then post it on our site. So as I mentioned, we have some great opportunities for you to connect with interns. One of those is the Internship Fair. We have one coming up on September 10th. The key word to this Internship Fair is that it's virtual. So it'll be really different than past internship fairs in the sense that it'll be online. And that offers opportunities for new organizations that haven't participated before or artists to be a part of this. And as Dee was saying earlier, something that we found is that, you know, say if you're off the bus route or if you're just not in the immediate area where a student can connect with you, it's a great way for students who haven't been able to connect with these organizations within the region to work with you, because everything will be virtual. We are only promoting virtual internships this semester and until further notice, just for the safety of students and the safety of you as well. And that is one of the reasons why we're putting this whole thing together, because we want to make sure that you're having a successfully remote internship. To get in onto this internship fair, you can sign up today. You can let me know and we'll get you into the door. This internship fair is going to be, in a sense, like 10-minute meetings with individual potential interns. And it's really an introduction for you to tell them about your organization or the work that you do, and for them to give you their resume. And so you can collect those and follow up afterwards.
Great, thank you, that was great. So we're gonna just go through kind of rapid style 7 remote internship tips. So number 1 is start with an orientation. A bunch of years ago, I took part in this leadership training, and they were talking about how as new employees would come in, the sort of standard practice was that you would arrive at your new job and the person who was responsible for you would go, oh, you're here today? Oh, okay. Let me put you over here because Susie's hasn't left yet, and we'll figure out where to put your coat and hat. And I have a meeting right now, but here's the manual. So as you sit there and read it, and I'll come back at lunchtime. And that sets everybody up to go, oh, first, I wasn't valued. Second, I have no idea how organized or disorganized this place is going to be. And it's a bad first impression. So what we're really going to recommend is that you create a really clear orientation for the student. I'm not going to read all of this, but the bottom line really is make their welcome feel real. Make them understand what it is you're expecting of them and how they're supposed to actually make things work for you. How are they going to get into the space? Are you going to give them passwords to everything? How do they get into your website? How do they get into whatever it is that you need? When we have student workers at the Arts Extension Service and interns, we often give them access to parts of our databases, but not everything. So just make sure that you recognize what it is you want them to do and make sure they have the tools that they need in order to make their work happen. The other thing is that We want the students to really understand what it is that they need to be doing for you and come to you with the very best that they possibly can bring in on the first day as well. In many regards, that's Caroline's job. Next, please. Burns, this one's you.
It's really important that you start off on the right foot. And by doing that, you want to create a structured communication with flexible work times. So things are different now, right? So everybody is remote. We're connecting through online communications, and students have different classes, or different class schedules. So you'll need to work with that, but you really need to establish right at the forefront when you're meeting and what times you're meeting. We recommend that you meet at least twice a week. And something that I have done that I think has been successful is I usually build out 45 minutes to an hour per each meeting, have one at the beginning of the week and one at the end of the week. We may not go that long for each of those meetings, but it gives us the time just in case we're working on a project or the intern is working on a project and needs a little more time and help to get through that project. And honestly, the more you're connecting with your intern, the better the work will be in the end, and the better it'll help your organization or the work that you're working on. So think about that. I usually think about it as, if I'm spending 2 hours a week with an intern, imagine that you were in the office or you were in the studio. You would be seeing potentially that intern every day or a couple of times a week, and you might be connecting with them throughout the time that they're in the space. So it really works well. Have them track their hours each week. I find this is really good because not just because it helps them learn how to budget time, but it lets you know what they're working on. So if you give an intern, you decide with the intern when they will be working, say 10 to 2 on Mondays through Fridays. They can log in, connect with you, let them know what they're working on. And when they log out, you might want to just establish that they email you and say, hey, these are some things that I worked on today. This is what didn't work. This is what did work. And that way you'll all be on the same page. We're all different. Interns are people, and they have all different experiences and organizational skills. If you establish these things up front, these schedules up front, it's going to help you in the end. I think also, as you consider students and their schedules, their academic schedule has really changed this year. We're starting school sooner than expected. And so they might have midterms and deadlines that they need to attend to. Make sure that you check in somewhere along the line during the semester and make sure that you know when those deadlines are or when those midterms are, because it's likely that their work is going to be different or they will be unavailable during those times.
Great. If I could add one thought, if you have an online calendar and you give them a space in that online calendar to upload from the very beginning, when midterms are, if there are any special holidays that they are not going to be able to work because it's a religious holiday or something else, have them do that early. So then you know from the get-go, and then just fill in as you go. That would be something that could help. Great. Next. Okay. The other piece of we wanted to share is that everybody knows that you work harder on something that you're really, really interested in. So what we've found over the years is that the best internships have been when students have come to an employer or an internship provider and said, could I do this kind of project with you? And those have been really successful over time. We've also found that if a student wants to learn something specific and they get that opportunity to do that while they're working with you, it makes an enormous difference, not only in their interest level, but also the quality of their work. So make sure that you can actually ascertain from the very beginning, what is it that they want to learn? What kinds of opportunities do they want to be exposed to? What do they want to see? What do they want to do? And try to give that to them as much as you possibly can. Those are things that really matter to the students and also to us. Just as an example, I had an intern a number of years ago who was interested in grant research. Well, UMass has some really cool things that Burns will talk about later, but one of them is access to an online database for foundations. Well, that was great. The student had no idea. So getting them that opportunity to connect with the tools that they can access for free are really awesome. So what we did is we worked with that student, taught them where to look, and they were really off and running. The other sort of piece of wonderful news is that they want to learn how to do grant research. Perhaps you would like a grant so they could be doing that learning on your behalf, which is the whole point of having an intern. There's got to be that shared push-pull of like, I need this, you need that. Let's share this together and help figure out like what's that right balance. The other piece is try not to give your intern grunt work. You want them to do work that's going to be really challenging for them and work that you really need done. We often find that project-based work is really something that they can get their teeth into and really work on. And it also can happen within this time frame of a semester. Next.
And Dee, I'll just add to that at the end of this past summer with the interns that I was working with, I asked them before, gave it maybe a month before and said, we've been doing all this work together. What's something that we haven't done together that you want to work on? And what came out of that was one student created a video because she wanted to learn how to do video and video editing. And now Arts Extension will have this video. And then another was a student who was doing fundraising work with an organization that I work with. And she really wanted to learn about databases. I mean, how uber wonderfully nerdy is that? And I just was like, I adore you. That's great. Let's dive into databases. And so she helped out with the project and we made it a hands-on project so she could learn what our content relationship management system was like. So you never know.
Great, thank you. Next tip is provide clear, timely feedback and give a context. So clarity matters with students. They're often new to working in a professional environment. They're probably new to your field. They don't understand your language. They may not understand what kind of verbiage you use. In our office, we're constantly like, did you contact AFTA about APAP? I mean, it's like, who the heck are we talking about? So make sure that they understand what you're talking about. So let them know what those matter. The other thing we'd really like to recommend is that deadlines matter for students. They really need to be told when you need something and why. Try to help set them up to win. So for example, if you need part A of a report that you're working on and you want them to go find 10 images and clean them up so that you can put them into your report, tell them why you're doing the project that they're doing and give them a deadline. Tell them where to put this information so that you can access it. Also, if you just give people a whole huge long task list and you don't prioritize for them, they're not going to pick things done in the order in which you want them finished. So make sure that you give them an idea of what you want, when you need it, and also just like what the deadlines are. The other piece too is try to give them feedback. If they did a project for you and you felt like this was only half-baked, be really careful. Make sure that they understand what your criteria are and what your expectations are for them. Some of those things really matter. I do have to say that I've been teaching on this campus for since 2011. And to this day, it still blows my mind that a 20-year-old will come up and go, did you want that in size 11 font or 12? Do you want it single-spaced or double-spaced? And it's like, really? Oh my God, just get your papers in. But it says to me that they are so accustomed to being told what to do. They want that. They want the boundaries and they want to know what it is that you want. So if you can provide them maybe not that level of detail, but give them a context of what you need and how, that will really help them to succeed. Next.
So we've talked a little bit about the tools that are available, but there's a lot more out there. And because UMass is a great institution that offers a lot of resources to students, this is a way for you to really dip into those resources and utilize them with the student. UMass students have access to Zoom, Google Drive, Google Calendar, many more, Box. Having think about it as, you're sharing information with an intern. The best way to do that is obviously remotely through cloud-based programs and using Google Drive or Box, some sort of cloud-based program to share your documents and files. Having that set up before you even begin with the internship is really a good idea. So you know and you establish how you're sharing your files and systems, and you're not wasting time trying to figure out where that file is. Another group of tools that are really helpful are project management tools. Asana, Basecamp, Trello, things like that can be helpful. They take a little bit of initial organization, but essentially you can create a calendar for projects and assign those tasks to students. And when you assign the task to the intern, they'll be alerted that that task is due. And once it's due and they've done it, they can check it off and you'll get an alert to your email. So that cuts down on the need for additional meetings, additional emails, and you can just have the projects mapped out. For example, some projects that I've mapped out before are marketing projects, say like a social media calendar. So you have that calendar set up on that project manager, and they're alerted, hey, you need to create a post for this coming week. And they know that. You've talked about it at your meeting, they're reminded, and you know it's been done.
Great, thank you. Good. Another tip that we have for you is to please engage students with your colleagues, either your coworkers or people that you may work with out in your field, depending upon how it is that you are set up. Working remotely is really, really fun for a while. And then it gets incredibly lonely, especially if you're a person who's accustomed to being around a lot of other people. So the students are really, as I said earlier, kind of getting tired of being in their basement or the room that they grew up with or grew up in. Also, some of the students are actually, very few will be on campus, but for those who are, they're going to be in a dorm that's going to be pretty darn empty. So the more you can engage them and invite them to participate in things with you, the more they're going to feel connected to the project and to your institution. We recommend that you try to invite them at minimum to come to your events, whatever events those might be. If you're having a conference, we have a weekly staff meeting, if they can participate. If you want them to, give them an opportunity to take notes for you so that they're there and they feel like they have a task, as opposed to sitting in the back and don't know what they're doing or what they're listening to. Another really important reason that we think internships are so great and that interns are so wonderful is that they bring a really fresh perspective to you. They don't know the ins and outs of why you do something. So if you ask them a question in the middle of a meeting about something that you're considering, we often turn to our student workers or our interns and say, hey, what do you think about that? And to my complete horror, most of the time, they'll be like, no, that's really dumb because that doesn't work for students for X, Y, and Z reasons. And it's like, oh, of course that makes sense. But as a person who's not a student any longer, that doesn't make sense to us. So use this moment when they're still fresh and they don't know the ins and outs of your organization. The other reason it's really helpful to invite them to things or meet other people is that one of the really important reasons that people intern is that they can learn to connect with people and they can build their networks. So even though we are all working remotely right now, some of the most important conversations that I know I have during the week is when I stop and actually get on the phone with somebody and just have a conversation and reconnect as a human being and not as a person working all the time. It's an opportunity for students to meet people, to talk about and ask people what it is that they love about their careers and their jobs, and just start to build their networks. So that's my 2 cents on number 6. Whoops, pardon me, that's my time was up for that. Burns.
So evaluation and constructive feedback is going to be instrumental along the way. Each week when you're talking to your intern in one of those meetings, give them some feedback. Ask what you could both do better, what's working, what's not working. Let them know what's working for you. I think something that often we run into on remote communication is just not understanding what's going on, because we're all in our siloed, worlds here, trying to connect the best way that we can. And we don't have that interactive communication that we're used to. So this is the way you should really make sure you're on the same page, be upfront about it. Something that I have done in the past that has been successful has been asking interns for a write-up of all the things that they've done. And this is a how-to for your next intern. So you're essentially creating that how-to for the future. And then ask them for an internal review of their experience. So you know what's worked and what hasn't worked and what you can do better the next time around.
Right. I'm going to add 2 comments to that. One is that I often, students may take internships for credit. If they do credit internships, 3 credits equals 9 hours a week. That's a lot of time. It's an awful lot of time. So, do keep that in mind. When I am the faculty advisor for students who are actually taking internships for credit, I start off with the premise that they must right up front say on paper what it is that they want to learn. And then in the middle of the semester, they have to say what they've been working on. And at the end, they have to wrap up and do a comparison of what did I hope to learn, what did I learn, and what happened, what did I wish had happened, so that they'd think about these things all the way through the process. Another thing I think I failed to say earlier was that when you communicate with students, everybody's different. I am a visual artist. I am really visual. If you sit down and talk to me and give me instructions by orally, I won't get it. I have to either write it down or see it. So make sure that you recognize and ask your student, how do they hear information and how do they process information best, so that they can actually have an opportunity to really do what it is that they need to for you, and make sure that they're working for you. So do you want to go to the next slide?
Sure. So we have an onboarding checklist for you. So you can go through and check off the important things that you need to establish at the beginning of your relationship with the intern. First, review communication and policy guidelines. So remember, establish how you're going to communicate, how you're going to interact each week. And also, if you're in an organization, consider sharing the policies that are going to be used by this intern so they're in the know. Remember, you are emulating that real life experience with them. And if they know the policies up front and they break those policies, you can say, hey, remember we talked about that policy. So you can reflect back on that.
Great. Number 2 is go through the schedule and goals. We talked about schedules pretty well before, but goals are really important. Have some kind of a system so that the students understand what they need to do to basically finish up and reach those goals that they need. Another thing that I'd like to just note really quickly is that in our office, we have work study students, and when we all went remotely, what we did was we basically divvied them out. I had this person, somebody else had that person. We had a point person for each student. In your case, often you will have one person be the point person for your student, for your intern, but we recommend that you have a second person. So if, as what happened this summer, if you go on vacation, somebody else can take the intern so they don't lose that week or that 2 weeks while you're on vacation. So make sure that that person also recognizes what it is that the student's working on and what the due dates are. And again, that's a moment to share calendars so they understand what the goals are and when things are due.
Introduce interns to staff and key members. So remember, we're coming back to that walk around the office and saying hello to everybody. How can you bring that experience if you work with other artists in your studio, or if you have people in your building, who can they connect with? When a person, when a student, an intern works with an internship provider, that's an opportunity not just to do the work and have field experience, but to network with other people. So maybe you can connect them with some meetings, invite them to board meetings or staff meetings or partner meetings. Maybe think about when you go out for coffee. Remember when we went out for coffee and you would grab a colleague and you would say, hey, do you want to come along and join us? This is the opportunity to do that because they need that connection and networking for their future. And it's good also, too, for those that you work with to remember that somebody else is helping out with the work in your organization or your business.
Great, thank you. Walk through these projects together. What is the process by which you want something completed? Don't just say, hey, go look this up and put it on an Excel spreadsheet for me. What do you want on that Excel spreadsheet? What is the purpose of that Excel spreadsheet and that research? How will that be used? Make sure that the student understands what it is that you want them to do, how you want them to complete the work, where it should go, and when it needs to be completed. As long as you also ask them if they have questions and give them space for those questions. That will help you really cut through a lot of informational, a lot of miscommunication. Again, figure out what their learning style might be and just ask them, how do you need to understand and hear information? Do you want a checklist, which is one thing I do with my students often for a big project, or do you want me to just give it to you and you figure it out on your own? So make sure that it's really clear what you'd like them to do.
Next is establish and discuss and show through screen share. Know your tools, share your tools, establish your tools. Are you using Zoom? Are you using Google video chat? Are you using Box? Are you using Google Docs? Make your life a lot easier and make it clear from the beginning of what you all will be using to share and to communicate.
Great. This past spring, I had one of my interns actually help me to fill out my cultural data form. Worst thing I have to do in a whole fiscal year. And I basically realized that, oh my gosh, because of this remoteness, I had to download a bunch of information and then upload it to this person. And I have the world's worst internet at my house, so I had to ask somebody else for help in between. So it was really complicated. So it would have been smarter for me to have done all of that downloading before I had asked the student, because he was really fast and he needed stuff all the time. So make sure that you're prepared for your student and also ready to give them what they need. If you're working on something like go figure out some financial stuff and you need to have them look at a 990, if you don't have yours, tell them where to go find this stuff. Make sure that they have what they need so that they're not wasting their time and that you're not wasting your own time.
So share pertinent documents for the internship.
Yeah.
Pertinent documents, include, like we talked about earlier, those policy guidelines, but also as Dee was talking about, 990s and whatever is needed ahead of time. Then you'll establish those mutual goals for the internship and what the intern needs and what the provider needs. So make sure that you know what those goals are up front. Say, as Dee was saying earlier, so Welly put, that those goals, you'll ask the intern what the goals will be, what their interests are, and what they want to get out of the internship from the beginning and the end.
Great, thank you. Next one is choose selected times to meet during the week. We talked about that a few times, but it's so much easier to say at the very beginning, can you meet on these two times? And basically do a doodle poll, whatever it is that you have to do in order to understand what times work for the student, and mostly what times work for you. We all know that the worst thing in the world is to try to set up a meeting. And the hardest thing for the student is to ask you because you bailed on a meeting, or, oh, wait a minute, that Tuesday doesn't really work for me at that time. And they have to keep asking you to keep asking to reschedule it. Try to set something up from day one and just make it really, really easy so that you have some specific set times. Again, remember that students may have to switch their calendars around throughout the school year. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And then invite that interns for those weekly meetings through the calendar. Make sure that those meetings are set up, that you have days of the week, and that they're set on a joint calendar that you both can see.
Great. Excellent. So next, remember, we are also giving you a copy of this after the event, so you don't have to worry about taking screenshots. Caroline, we are turning this to you for the next few slides.
Yep, and I'm going to go pretty quickly so that there is time for questions. When an intern is different from an employee, really comes down to who you are. And if you are for-profit or if you are not for-profit, really different rules come into play. We all know that the Fair Labor Standards Act is all about you work 1 hour, you get paid at least minimum wage. Except, and there are all these loopholes in that law that pertain to different people. And internship has rules and regulations that talk about these loopholes. This slide and the next slide, which don't bother to go to yet, these next two slides are the fact sheet 71, which is from the U.S. government, the Department of Labor, about if you are a for-profit. Now, a lot of you are nonprofits. If you are a nonprofit, which I'll cover first, there's not a lot of things to worry about in terms of the law and not paying an intern. There are other reasons to reconsider that, but basically, if you're a nonprofit, the intern volunteers without expectation of compensation. It's not so easy for anyone to volunteer for a for-profit. And these rules, this page and the next, are all about what you got to do if you want an intern for no money, and yet you are a for-profit, which individual artists, of which we have a couple with us, can be considered to be for-profits. So really quickly, it comes down to cui bono, who benefits. And if you are a for-profit and you have an intern and you don't want to pay them, the law basically says the intern should benefit more than you. That's what it comes down to. So yeah, there's no compensation, but they should be trained. That it should recognize the semester calendar, the academic calendar, that there might be integrated coursework or credit, that they should be learning throughout the time they're with you, not just the first week, and then they're doing slog work the rest of the time. Let's see. You should be having them complement paid employees, not replacing paid employees. Anyways, you're going to get a copy of this. If for some reason you lose this, just look up fact sheet 71. It comes up immediately, and it has this exact same language. Who benefits? Who benefits? It should be for unpaid, you're for-profit, it should be the intern. There were less flexible rules before, but who cares about them now? So it really comes down to this. If you want to switch the slide, Burns, these are the rules for the really careful walking through the legal jungle of unpaid, you're for-profit. Next page, Burns. So there are reasons why, let's see, I think we want to keep going. Whoops, there we go. Why should you pay your intern? Well, they end up coming to you with a little more commitment. And that's really what it comes down to. You do attract the top candidates, but they are more likely to come to you with a little more commitment. Now, of course, some people can't pay. Okay. But this is capitalism. People do participate in it. And to a certain degree, if you can pay, you will get a better candidate and you will get more commitment from your candidate in a generic format. And then how to pay, it is possible to work out a work study situation with UMass. There may be other ways you can offer them resources. And then they can do this for credit, but understand you have nothing to do with credit, except maybe say, yep, they're working with me. So don't worry about the credit. It's between you and the student about pay. It's between the student and UMass about credit. So that's that. I think that's about it. Yeah?
I think the only thing I would add is that, you know, as we move forward in this world, sort of equitable practices are good to think about and consider. If you are funded, say, by a state resource or a foundation, maybe consider adding that budget line for an intern as part of that.
Another thing you might want to consider is maybe you can't give them cash, but what else do you have that could be accessible to them that would be of value? So for example, we have a membership with a national organization, and it doesn't cost me a penny more to add an intern's name to that membership list so that they can download and access that website for the duration of while they're with us. So what are those types of freebies that you can give to them that could be of help to them or of interest to them? So with that, let's move to our next to final slide.
Right, so these are just a list of some of the tools that you can access from UMass. We have the internship templates that you can find when you sign up for, or you create your provider listing. You can post your internship. HFA Advising and Career Center has a lot of resources on their website for students and some for providers too that might be helpful for you. And really, I do encourage you to sign up for the Arts and Humanities Internship Fair. It's a great event for you to really connect with students and for them to understand and get to know your organization a little bit better. And then students have access to a lot of these different collaborative tools. Like we have said, this will be in your inbox soon. So you can go through these and they'll have links, direct links to some of these tools that you can utilize with your intern.
Thank you.